Good afternoon and welcome to Rotary. We are glad that you are all here. And technology is working today. I don't know if you know this. I've got a good feeling about today's meetings. Keep your fingers crossed. All right. So today we're gonna do the Pledge of Allegiance and the four-way test. We'll do our patriotic song. We'll do a virtual reading and education announcements. We've got fellowship with George Wickstrom, Dad Joke, and Dave Bierneck is our presenter on the history of the Rotary Camp. So let's go ahead and start out with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty. Is it the truth? Is it the fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill, better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And patriotic song today is America. This might bring you back to your elementary school days.
My country is something sweet.
It's amazing how things can bring back memories, and also I was transported back to my first grade class with Mrs. Johnson. I remember after we sing the song, it was time for a little carton of milk and graham crackers. Wow. All right. And so let's get into let's see here, the virtue reading, which I believe is Rod. Here you go. Thank you so much.
Virtue reading today is faith. Faith is a relationship of trust. It is believing in the reality of grace. We are confident that our life has a purpose. We believe in ourselves, knowing we were created with love. Faith is the wind in the sails of our dreams. It gives us the strength to go on, not succumbing to doubt, fear, or hopelessness. As we move forward, we are guided to the right path without having to make it happen. Even in the most trying times, we are open to miracles. It is faith with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. The practice of faith. I seek a relationship with my Creator. I trust that my life has meaning. I am prayerful in all times and conditions. I make discerning decisions. I allow faith to guide my course. I am receptive to wonders. I am thankful for the gift of faith. It blesses me always.
Thank you so much, Rod. I appreciate that. All right, and then Keith has our blessing.
All right, going right along with Rod and Faith, there's a prayer for Rotary. Creator and sustainer of all that is or ever will be, accept our thanks for this day and all of its blessings. We ask that you guide and direct our club, its leaders, and our actions. Grant that each of us may feel our responsibility to Rotary, to our community, to our country, and indeed to all countries and peoples. Bless our fellowship today, and bless us food and the nourishment of our bodies in your service. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Let's all take a load off, if you will. All right, and announcements. All right, Dr. Houston has an announcement.
All right, you've been hearing off and on about the Plant Pocket Prairie. Well, we reached the finish line, and it's been a wonderful journey. And you know, it's appropriate that Mr. Benji is here today, because way last fall, I said, I've got this idea, told him about it, and he said, go see a principal. So I did, and from there we saw principals at 8 schools, and we involved 350 kids in this community. And each one of them learned about the importance of pollinators, the importance of collaborating, and each one of them got to take home a prairie flower. This is a big deal, but collaboration and the service that people stepped up to do to make this happen is amazing. We were in the paper on Saturday. If you take a look at the headline, I think it's so appropriate. Collaborating for pollinators. And so we have the school, we have Toilet and Water, we've had Riverbend people, we've had Private Sportsman Club, we've had Donahue's, and of course we have Rotary. So just an awesome project that had a really good finish line. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Yes, George?
I'm on hospitality today, but I'd like us all to think about the four-way test. Grass is getting green, a number of us have signs with the four-way test on it. And I'd like each of us to think about how we could be promoting the four-way test in Faribault. And I don't know if there's anything to say about it, but if you do have some thoughts about it, I'd like to have you share them with us. I'll give you a couple of thoughts that I have. Whenever we open up a discussion, it's best to open it up with a question. The questions are not debated. Statements and so forth can be, but how can we open up a conversation with somebody about the four-way test? Nick, for example, I've got a four-way test outside my yard there. What do you think about that? That kind of thing. Whatever you say, is more important how you say it than what you say, because these people will know if you're passionate or if you're convinced that you're helpful one to each emotion. So let's have 36 signs out, someplace in the city. And we need to do a good job of moving the four-way test. We've got so many problems in this world that are not solvable the way we're doing it. And the truth, the four-way test, I think can be instrumental in helping fixing every one of those problems.
Thank you very much, George.
Yeah.
Always really appreciate your passion for the four-way test and doing what's right. Thank you. Go, David.
In the site of the four-way test, we are going to bring service to our community, cleanup for our highway. And we also have some great setups as well. This is kind of one of our 2 busy seasons, and my last busy season where I get the thing and please for you guys to sign up. Coming forward, it'll be preached to you. Before we do the introduction, I will start the sign up. So this is a great way to build goodwill and better friendships. And all of these are very child welcome and appropriate. I'll start it here, and that's all I got to say.
Thank you very much. Dr. Martha Brown awarded the Theater and Arts Awards. You can see the photo up here of the proud recipients. So he asked that I share that. And then also I got a couple of really great thank you notes from the students that we sent to Camp Ryla. The first one says, "Dear Rotary Club, I had a great time. I got to meet new people and make new friends. And my favorite activity was Ryla Powers." And that is from the, what's the young man?
Taylor Grant.
Taylor Grant, thank you. And then the other one says, "Dear Rotary Club, thank you so much for giving me the chance to make friends and learn how to be leaders. I can go into life being more confident in myself and others. I learned how to listen to ideas from others, my own, and to be fair in order to help others." To be fair, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? And so that's pretty on Nathan Summers' daughter. I'm not sure if they're here today, so. Yep, so very, very nice thank you notes. Those are always such a nice gesture to send and receive a thank you note. All right, so we are gonna move into fellowship with George. And Excited to hear what everybody shares, and once we kind of get close to time to leave enough time for Dave, I'll kind of make a signal or stand up or do a dance or something to get everybody's attention, that's time to wrap it up, so. There you go. And
I'll avenge your good. Oh. I think we were gracious, as you all know, so let's keep our comments whatever we're having, kind of short. But if anybody has any thoughts, where's my thought?
right here, would you like me to be your publicist then? Okay.
Before I help on the vote.
Yes.
Anybody have any comments in the form of this, I might have posted?
I don't have a comment on four-way test, but I do have a couple things I want to say. Last night, Nancy and I were up, and celebrating the 75th anniversary of the veterinary college in Minnesota.
Nice.
We are currently rated third in the nation, 13th in the world, and we're over 1,500 qualified applicants for 125 spots. So pretty happy, proud about that. I'll check it out. Yeah. This part is the 25th year that I planted trees in my farm. Some years 4, some years 6,000. So we have the few trees going. It's all pretty exciting. But the big thing, George. The big thing is that weeks ago at our board meeting, our president made a comment about everybody who got colorful socks on the and you know, I saw that same gloomy look at this there that Murray had at that time. And so I had an opportunity to cut some socks to brighten up Murray's life a little bit. So Murray, here you go. That's wonderful.
I'll make another quick comment. I will double whatever we get done today. Doesn't that go down to services?
Well, it goes to whatever we wish that it goes to, so if you'd like the donation today to go to youth services, we can allocate that.
Youth services, and I will double whatever we got today.
Wonderful.
That's the incentive.
Yeah.
Thanks just for the cause today, Doug. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Brandon's got some bucks, Brandon bucks.
I'll just say quick, so Rotary readers, I have had the opportunity to participate that a couple of times now, 2 weeks in a row, and the kids are awesome. It's been a lot of fun. I haven't been in the elementary school since I taught DARE, and that was actually the scariest day of my life. And I say that, and people think I'm kidding, but I swear I was so scared going there and teach fifth graders DARE. But I loved it, it was awesome, and if you haven't had a chance. Yeah.
Okay, everybody. All right. I signed up for the biggest one, now, but I don't know what we're doing.
Except they're multiple.
Yes,
sir, we'll see you there. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
I'll make it expensive for you, put $23 in for 2023.
Yeah.
Available that, don't talk about work very much, but we are hiring a director of HR, Harry Brown, so it's a big deal for us, and we're looking for somebody fun, and we're looking for somebody with culture, and we're looking for somebody that can train really well, so we can.
What do you say?
This is good, and the last thing is colorful socks and ties, so I think you're in.
Okay, anybody else? Murray, you gotta have a lot of them.
Well, the only thing is, when we work Sundays, the cardio is closeness. You have to figure that out. I was sorry this last week, I had an out of town appointment, but missed the program anyway, so. I talked with Summer, she's still looking forward to doing that, it's been fun having Summer Nate in our building.
copy card and extended hours, get it well received. Dick, thank you for the socks. I guess it'll add some color to what I'm wearing. So I'd probably say some other things that you gave me a gift this week. I would expect 1 minute.
This substitute was my dentist. He's retired. And now Murray's gonna be my dentist. Enough of that. Doesn't work for you?
I just wanna say I'm very from here and this is, I think you guys wanna say hi to Evan, you guys,
Hi,
and me and Dr. Richard.
Anyone else? Or Erica, what they would do?
I just wanna say, you have dollars.
Yep.
I went to a wedding this weekend for my cousin, and my baby cousin just had twins, and I got the twins, see the twins, and that was very exciting. And then during the anniversary dance, where they called out people on the floor and discuss through the years, my parents were the last to be on the floor. And they've been married for 52 years, which I think is just incredible, and so I'm just incredibly proud of them, so. Happy dollars are in honor of them and in honor of all that they've gone through together and the fact that they still are so caring towards them.
Nice. Anyone else?
Jamie didn't want to say anything, but we've got an excited person to share some words with us on the opposite end of the table here.
Anyone else want to donate? Make people grow.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ellie. I'm not sure if I've met everyone yet. My husband Ryan, we're new to Rotary. But I just wanted to invite everyone. We are having a wedding expo at our event space, Stone Orchard Events, which is just north of town from Orchard. That's this Saturday from noon to 4, and we've got all local photographers, local artists. It's just gonna be a fun day. We'll have it's Stone Orchard Events. Yeah, so it's kind of our soft opening. We've done a lot of private events, but this is our first public one. We're curious about the crazy adventure that we've been on.
Thank you. Anyone at this table? Natalie. Every day. Did I do something wrong? Is there wrong?
I want to say thank you to Faribault Police. They do a whole lot for us and we don't even know half of what they do. So I just want to say thank you for serving and protecting us and the sheriff's office.
Nobody wants to be caught. After they talk to me, they can talk to all.
A few dollars. My son just finished his first year of college and his grades were actually better than my freshman year of college. So that's an indicator he's got hope. Rick Miller, he's a Faribault Rotarian. He took a new position with Mayo Health System. That will be their CFO for all of their sites except for Rochester. So we wish him well. He's no longer going to be a Rotarian, but you'll probably still see him out and about in the community because he's still covering this region. So we wish Rick. There's one other thing I was going to say.
I missed the name. Who was that?
Rick Miller.
Oh, okay.
Just a reminder about the Rotary raffle. I think I've had hit everybody up here, other than maybe Eric else chatting before we go. If you're able to sell tickets, please let me know. I believe I've gotten everyone 15. If you sell them all, let me know. You can certainly sell more than that. Congratulations to Ibrahim for being the first person to sell this.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Then I'm putting in $20 via Venmo just because I want George to double up here, so.
When is the drawing?
June 28th. We've got about 6 weeks.
I have $3 happy dollars. One for my mom, who conveniently isn't here today, it's her birthday tomorrow. And then my son William turns 9 on Sunday. And then on Sunday, we will be dedicating our foster baby at church. At home.
Nice.
So if you want to come and join us in the celebration, you're welcome to join us. Have a forgot.
Thank you so much.
Okay, let's see what we have here. Here's a retired airline.
Good try, George. Good try.
We got a few more tables here. Anybody here wants to make me broke?
Looks like David. Thank you.
Couple things, Blood Drive yesterday was this huge success, we matched our goal, and we had a couple first-time donors and stuff with Brianna, Cunningham, giving for the first time, was that your first time? All right, cool, you were in the second place, and, so we met our goal, which the Red Cross is always happy about. Big bravo and part of all the volunteers that we had, but mostly Kate, who really stepped up and said, you know what, I'll be here for setup, I'll be here for takedown, I'll be here basically all day. So, yeah, bless you. I was to bring this up too. Well, first, four-way test sites. I have mine on the side of my house. I live in Owatonna, so what I found out is I have a Rotarian neighbor, kitty corner from me.
Oh.
I'm going to be bringing that up to the morning club and the noon club to promote those around Owatonna as well. All because we had a sign from this club. Last thing, I was going to bring this up even to kind of talk about what Eric was saying. Bravo to the hustle of Ibrahim. Right after he got his tickets, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm setting up for a meeting in my professional office building where we have several different businesses and stuff like that. And I hear out in the lobby, like, hi, my name is, and I didn't catch the name, I'm from the Bearville Rotary Club, and we have this cash raffle. I'm like, all right. And so I came out and met across for going out and promoting youth education in our community. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Very good.
Do we have any people with big bucks here?
Right here.
So happy to be here and four-way test. Last week I was able to be part of the allocation panel, helping the United Way Board to decide how to give fair resources to the so many deserving organizations. And what I found as I was listening is that there's way more need than we can cover by far, but using the four-way test was a helpful way for me to think about how we can take those limited resources and use them wisely. I wish I had more money in my purse because I'd like to see George take a little.
Well, I won't keep you in suspense any longer. I guess we're going to talk about global warming, and I have. Can anybody here have had the microphone close enough? Everybody's always complaining about that. I have two more, items that you can think of what you can do individually to combat, global warming. I noticed that, throughout the city, there's a lot of, the electric scooters. And increased use of electric scooters throughout the country would make a major impact. And the second little item is decarbonize your credit card. And I didn't realize what that meant, but the three major credit cards, the big banks that are sponsoring are also funding fracking for oil. They're funding pipelines. They're funding all the businesses that are putting greenhouse gases into the air. Be alert for the next upcoming event. I won't keep you in suspense for the next. Thank you.
Just for the cause, George. Oh, you got one more. Well, this is like passing the plate for service.
What is the cause today? I'm a little bit unclear.
Faribault Rotary Youth Services.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm celebrating, my family had the opportunity to celebrate last weekend, my daughter Sarah's graduation from college. She graduated from Winona State University with a degree in something called allied health. She hopes to be an occupational therapist someday. It was a major accomplishment for any young person, but my daughter overcame a lot of personal challenges to graduate. It was very exciting for us. My family from the New England area were all here to celebrate with us, and Rebecca was by my side, and she did a wonderful job of remaining positive and putting on her charm. She was surrounded by the in-laws, my family, and my former in-laws, I call them the outlaws, and she just was cool as a cucumber and did a great job. Great to have her by my side for that. So that's what I'm celebrating.
Okay, very good, thank you. Just one last parting thought.
We got K too.
When we talk. Oh, we missed you, didn't we? You're the photographer.
I just want to say $5, but I just wanted to say for yesterday at all the people volunteering, we went over our quota for the blood drive. And then also last week I was on vacation, I missed it, but I wanted to thank Paul for all his help last month. It was really appreciated. And I did go to the Rotary Reader on Monday, got a tour of the whole school, and they asked me to work full-time, part-time. I'm like, I don't think
You're too valuable here.
I'm going to go be reading 2 to 3 times a week. So anyway, I'm anxious for that. And my oldest great granddaughter of 10 great grandkids is graduating Sunday on Mother's Day. So I will be next week in Missouri. So thank you.
Just a parting thought, any of us that choose to promote the 4-way test, many of you have heard my story by my Aunt Marion and the power of one. Any one of us promoting the 4-way test could be the power of one to somebody. And that can ripple through many, many people. My Aunt Marion's 4th grade teacher probably affected thousands of people through my Aunt Marion. So think about that.
Thank you, George. And I'm gonna put a couple extra bucks in here and we'll get a total for you, so you know how much.
I would like that audited, so it's
Audited. Okay, we'll put our best people on it and plus $25 that came in through Venmo. Yes.
Can I give you an IOU?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with.
So this is my daughter, Olivia, who's with me today, and she said a couple months ago that we really needed a handshake. We're gonna be a club, we have to have a handshake. It's required, apparently. So she's been working on it, so I was wondering if you had a little spare time today so she can show you it.
Yeah.
We've been anxiously anticipating this moment, so we are very excited. Make sure you got this on film, Kate.
what's your IOU in there?
I spotted her.
Okay.
Can you turn sideways so
All
I can
right.
see it?
Okay, then this, and then 4. The 4-way. Four-way test made it into the handshake.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We need to have you hold some classes for us so that we can learn that, teach us, but I absolutely love that. Very good. Thank you for that. We appreciate it. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we've got a dad joke. Soon, here we go. All right. If you tell dad jokes, but you don't have any kids, it's a full. Thanks, Greg. Thank you. That was a submission from Dr. Martin Brown. And sometimes I like to have a picture to go with the dad joke just for a little extra punch, so I Googled fake dad. And I was looking for maybe like a guy in like the Groucho Marx glasses and mustache, couldn't find that, but apparently there's a band called Fake Dad, and they are doing an interview pretending that bananas are phones, so I don't know. But anyways, that's from Dr. Brown, you can thank her for that next time you see her. So now I'd like to invite Dave up, and Dave's gonna tell us the history of the Rotary Camp, and I'll get your presentation switched over for you. Okay. Here we are. Okay, so. Yeah, tell me. So again, whenever you want to advance, just hit this slide or this little button. And do I use the wireless or the?
No, just stay here. This perfect. Basically, what I'm hoping to do is go over how we identify the property or the early Rotarian, when it was acquired, some of the construction history, some of the usage and work involved, and some current direction that I'm hoping we can achieve. So to start with, I'm going to read from the Faribault Rotary Club 75th anniversary. And in here, there was an article by Leighton Heusler, who was one of the early founders of the Rotary Camp. And here's his first paragraph. It all began in the mind and heart of a great lady, Dorothy Fredrickson, wife of longtime Rotarian Felix Fredrickson. Mrs. Fredrickson had a deep love for Girl Scouting, a wish for young women to know the world of nature, and a desire for camping opportunities. She made a cash bequest to a group of Faribault Girl Scout leaders, and that was around 8,000, and it eventually grew to 10. A girls' camp committee was formed to research and facilitate an investment which could make the outdoors and camping available to Faribault girls. Girls' camp committee members included Nancy Drerick, Shirley Maddow, Marcia Anka, and Irene Heusler. Now, three of them I know the husbands were Rotarians. I don't know about Anka. A search was begun to locate lakeshore property in close and convenient proximity to Faribault to provide camping and recreational opportunities. It was discovered that Basil Hazelton owned such property at the north shore of Cedar Lake in Shieldsville Township. Mrs. Hazelton had been active in scouting activities prior to her death. The Girls' Camp Committee felt the need for assistance in their efforts to purchase land and to proceed with their project to fulfill Mrs. Fredrickson's request. Many of their husbands were Rotarians, so discussions began regarding the Faribault Rotary Club's participation in the program. And that's basically what led then to the Faribault Rotary Youth Service entity. So agreements were drawn up, and attorney Ben Olson, who was a Rotarian, handled the legal matters and minutes of the early meetings. A member of the Girl Scouts
Camp Committee, I guess it's Girls Camp Committee, served annually on the board to administer the affairs of the organization, which became Faribault Youth Services. The newly formed board expanded the mission and purpose of the camp and the organization from girls camping to all youth and the Faribault community in general. In the late 1950s, the original inspection of the land was done by Bolt, rented from a local resort. And the four that involved was Nancy and Bob Jarrett, Irene and Leighton Poisley. They conducted that discovery of the property to assess its availability and suitability for their purposes. Picture here that is up here. These first two slides that I call the old slides are from 1982. So this is a picture of the driveway and going into the Rotary camp. And down at the very bottom of the picture, which you wouldn't see, is where the creek roughly comes through underneath the driveway. And the old sign that was up there, 2 wooden posts and Rotary Youth Camp. That has been torn down for quite a few years now, and we put up a gate at the end of the driveway.
Do we know who that is in the picture, Dave?
Do not know.
Okay.
Do not know who that is. There were no notes with these pictures, except that it was in 1982. To develop this property and make it useful for the purposes they wanted to do, they did a lot of pre-planning. They consulted with foresters, conservation consultants. They authorized contacting Gene Leonard, a Boy Scout executive, for the purpose of securing, he was a Boy Scout executive, for the purpose of securing a camp specialist to make recommendations concerning the layout and development of the site. They also toured a number of successful camps in southern Minnesota to get ideas about what they should have. Part of that planning involved a survey of area youth groups and churches to see how interested they were in using the property. They also had to contact various state and local departments, meet all required water sanitation regulations, and to get any required permits. To give a little time frame how this worked. So it was on August 8th, 1960, that the application to become an entity with the Secretary of State of Minnesota. That's when it became the first board meeting they had was in October. And they built, well, the first thing they had to do was get a well and sanitation conserves, so they had outside privy, basically, is what they had for the first 2 years before the building was built. The building was actually built in 1962 and was ready for use, and they had their open house or dedication ceremony on June 23rd, 1963. And there was this article in the Faribault Daily News, and it's a fairly long article, and there's a couple of things I wanted to go over here that I found interesting, and some of you might also. The president of Rotary at that time was Arnie Maddow, and he was also involved in the camp committee in wanting the camp. The president of Faribault Youth Services Inc. was George Freeborn. I did not know who that was. The members on the board at that time were Vice President, our own Rod Mahler. We had Mrs. Nancy Jurek as the Girl Scout Board Representative. She was the secretary. And Robert Bjorgum was the treasurer. And Mel Schreier and Lawrence Thompson were board members. The dedication ceremonies, the MC was Reverend Lawrence Gallman, pastor of Peace Lutheran Church and a Rotary Club member. And I'm looking for the statement he made. His statement was, "This is not the dedication of a piece of land, but dedication of unselfish individuals for the constructive service of others." And there are more than 200 people attended this dedication ceremony. And you'll see the flagpole right in the center. That flagpole was donated by the American Legion and the Rice County VFW. So they donated the cement base and the flagpole. And Faribault Lodge number 1166 donated the flag. At this time, the local Girl Scout leaders had donated Mrs. Frederickson more than $8,800 as of this time. And in the article, some of the things that I found interesting is the Lions Club donated 10 picnic tables and 20 benches. And I'm guessing, I don't know this for a fact, but I think some of those green tables are part of that original donation. Wow. They're very heavy duty, they lasted well. So it's really a whole community project, to get it going and off the ground out there. Then, when I was out at the Rotary camp, I saw for a number of years now, I've noticed that there's a little plaque that's on it's a fairly bigger plaque, on the chimney in a person's name, and I never really knew what it was about until I read this article. And there's a plaque attached to the fireplace that says, "In memory of Marguerite Kennedy, beloved leader of the Girl Scouts of Faribault. She was a sister to all and a friend to every other Girl Scout. She was so heavily involved that they had in the article that during a single year, Mrs. Kennedy had served as leader of 5 different troops." From there, we'll go into a little bit more of the construction history after 1963. Here's 2 pictures, again from 1982. Picture on the left is the front of the shelter house, as they called it at that time. There's a big tree in front that doesn't exist anymore. You can see it was dying or dead at that time. There's a little cement sidewalk going into the front door, and it's a step up to get in to the building. This right picture is on the back side of the shelter house. The big deck up above with the protective railing. And then these are steps going down the back, which are railroad ties put in, and some rock. I think they call them masculine steps or something. It was some weird name that I saw in there. I don't know, but they're real wide. You almost had to take 2 steps to get down. The shelter house, the land was purchased for $9,000 from Basil Hazel. So most of the money that came from the Girl Scout committee went towards the land. But then the well, the pump house, the deck, the building, you name it, everything after that, the Rotarians had to come up with. And they actually got pledges from all of the Rotarians to build the building. They came up with 4,000 in pledges. And then they got a $7,500 mortgage to build the shelter house. And with those proceeds from the loan and the pledges, the shelter house cost them, I believe it was $8,000. The shelter house was over $9,000 when it was originally purchased, what they put into it. And they approved a well, and it's a 165 feet deep well, so it's a nice deep well out there. But that only cost them about $200 to drill at that time. The mortgage for that was paid off and burned out at the camp in 1968. Then they started adding other things. So the pump house that exists out there now was built in 1974, and that cost $997. P&W Construction did that, and that was Bernie Wagner, who was also a member of the Rotary. The bathhouse was also constructed in 1974, which that's the picture to the right is the bathhouse. And that cost $5,360 in 1974. The picture on the left is a pathway to the dock that's out on the lake. And just to our right, very edge of the picture, that's where the steps for the railroad ties were at. Those steps were put in by Roger Koopman's business, and that was in 1982. And so that's the year these pictures were taken. Those steps were new when these pictures. They were in 1981, these pictures were in 82, so they're basically brand new. As far as the usage of the camp goes, I've got a stack of minutes from the archives down in the basement of the Reese Winter building, and it's about this deep, just the minutes. I found the corporate minute book. For years we were looking for it, couldn't find it. I found it finally. And we have the abstract. And the abstract, what I found interesting about that is the first mention of this property in this abstract is from the year 1856. Wow. The names that are on this property, I don't think are anybody around in the Faribault area anymore. All the early names from the 1800s. I don't think any of those people are around anymore. It's kind of interesting to see this. I was going for the usage of the camp. In those minutes, they had, this was during the 70s, they were pointing out the highest usage and the lowest usage of the camp. The lowest usage was 1972, where there were 550 users. The highest usage of the camp was in 1977, when there were a little over 4,000 people who used the camp. Back then, the main users of the camp were the Rice County Day Activity Center. And I'm not really familiar with that. I don't remember what that was about. The Faribault Area YMCA, Boy Scouts, and Girl Scouts. And the reason they had so many people is it was getting used during the week. The YMCA was actually using it. They conduct seminars and classes for a week long, and they would do anywhere from 1 to 6 every year. So they used it very much. Same thing with the Rice County Day Activity Center. It was during the day, and it was many days during the week.
Those are people with various disabilities, and so they have areas that care for them during the day and act on outings and do fun activities, so that would be a chance to get out and make sure.
Okay, yeah, perfect fit then. Okay, thank you for that. The deck on that picture that I showed, that was built in 1981. The total cost was $8,228. And there again, it was done by Rotarians through fundraisers and human pledges. And in fact, the Rotary camp never charged rent until, I believe, the first year was after they built the deck. It started in 1982, is what I could gather from the minutes. And then it was like $3 a day, and something very low. Then, of course, there's always maintenance of the camp. It's been reshingled a few times, and probably the biggest crew we had out there working for the camp of Rotarians was the last time we reshingled, which, I don't know.
Eric, we'll do it again.
Wait till my son will
I think that's a good idea. Yeah, we'll wait. So the other thing is to let you know kind of the people who are involved in dealing with the camp. You know, a lot of the camp activities happen without most of us knowing what's going on out there. There's people taking care of the camp and doing stuff that none of us really know. And what we have is we have a form for the rental group to sign. So it's kind of a legal form so that we can remove liability from us as an organization. And we have it, so the renters sign that. We have a checklist for the renters when they leave so that they close it down correctly. We have to have a camp booking agents. They have to have a spot to call and contact to reserve the camp, to get the paperwork and to pay their deposits and collect the monies. So here's a history of the booking agents that they had. So the first one was Art Johansson. I did not know him.
He was the head of the employment office in downtown Fairview.
Okay, because the address was Central Avenue, but I didn't know what that was. Okay. Dean Purdy, which was at his business. Then we had Roy Anderson, which I assume was at his place of business. And the Chamber of Commerce did it for a few years. I think that was 3 years maybe. The YMCA did it for about, most of these were in the range of 3 to 8 years. Riverbend Nature Center, and then Reese Winter and Associates. Oh, they even spelled that right there.
Okay.
They did it from 1990 for about 25 years to around 2014, somewhere in there. So they have the logins there. Presently, it's at Comprehensive Wealth Solutions, and their office manager Trista is handling it, and she's been doing it for now what, 9 years or so. So the last thing I wanted to go over was we as a group don't really get to experience the excitement or the feelings that the kids have when they're out there, because we're not out there with them. We don't get to see it. like Brandon pointed out when he was doing the reading program, you're with that student, you get to feel the excitement or the energy or what's there. Most of us, we don't know what's happening out at the camp. We aren't there. They have their privacy when the groups are using them. So I wanted to go over, and I've been out there quite a few times when these groups have been there. So I do get to experience it because I'm usually taking some supplies out or giving some instruction, or like in this case, I've got them to help me. I'll talk about it. Last Friday night gave me another opportunity to feel the atmosphere that exists. Excuse me. To feel the atmosphere that exists with a youth group at the camp. It was the Boy Scouts. This is something that you as Rotarians don't get to see or feel. You aren't going to be out there when a youth group uses the camp. When I arrived, there were 8 colorful tents in the process of being built, of being put up or already completed. The grass was wet from a rain shower about an hour or 2 earlier. It didn't seem to bother any of them. There was a lot of activity going on. You could see and feel the energy, enthusiasm, and excitement that existed with these kids. You could feel it in the air. The kids had no cell phones, no video games. They were as happy as could be, just playing outdoors. So I took the opportunity to ask them if they would help with the dock in. They eagerly helped me without any complaints. Of course, their eagerness to do some fishing off the dock may have had something to do with that. I got my passion for the camp because of experiences like this. I also inherited part of the passion for the camp from prior Rotarians active with the camp, such as Leighton Heusler, Steve Springmeyer, and Tom Gervin. I'm hoping some of you newer and younger Rotarians will also develop a passion for the camp. We're looking for more Rotarian involvement with the camps. We can always use more people on our spring and fall cleanups at the camp. We can use people to help with marketing plans. We can always use more people to help with the dock, putting the dock into the lake in spring and taking it out in the fall. There's always some minor landscaping projects that can be done. Going forward, I'm sure we'll be looking soon for another booking agent because they burn out after a while. I'd love to see more Rotarians have more Rotarian social events out there. Maybe sometimes just with the adults. Get together, get better acquainted with each other and the camp facility. Other times with the kids. In closing, I believe the camp is an exceptional asset that with the true Rotarian effort could be a phenomenal community benefit. Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes, George.
2 things. One, thanks for the lesson on inflation. Second thing is, you mentioned part of this, I think, but could we structure a number of camps sponsored by the Rotary Club? We have to cover a lot of areas, responsibility, risk, and so forth. There's a lot of kids in town that probably don't have an opportunity to share something like you just mentioned. You mentioned how impressed you to see those kids having fun. If we could organize some kind of group that would promote these camps, maybe limit the number of students, because we have to be worried how many we can control. Then have that supervision, they can stay for 2 nights, 3 nights a week, whatever it worked out to be. I think that'd be a good project.
No, I think it would be too. I think the issue there is the first choice would probably be to have youth use it, but not necessarily Rotarians having to have them there to supervise and things. But if we can make connections with more organizations to have them do it, and if we need to assist, fine. But as long as we have the people willing to do that, I'm all for it.
Well, there may be, teachers are off during the summer, maybe the teachers would like to do that. Take on that responsibility.
Yeah. I think we need to go down a big marketing plan and a planning committee to think of ideas and processes, but we gotta put effort into it.
And we could even have it for the cost, we could have some kind of fundraiser for, whatever they pay for it, I don't know what the cost would be, but we'd have to provide food, things of this nature.
David, just, a little bit on that, is that we have two people at that table that are thinking the very same way. Brad is, and his staff at Riverbend are talking about, some youth camps out there this summer. I just had breakfast with Ryan, and he's a sailor, and he said it'd be a pretty cool place to put some sailing classes out there for youth. And so, in answer to your prayers, a couple of them are right back there, you know, and, enthusiastic. Enthusiastic and knowledgeable and have wherewithal. We're all going to go out to the camp sometime relatively soon, so they can take a look at that and see how that can progress.
Terrific, that'd be great. Yes, Natalie.
For those of us too that went to St. Cloud to see the community outpost or the cop house, a big piece of their programming was taking youth on nature trips for leadership development. And so for us, if we go down that path to have our own camp, to take kids to, you know, close to home, this would be a great extension of that program. I also like hearing that the original kind of partners of the Scouts are still using it today. So hopefully the Girl Scouts are also using it.
The Girl Scouts aren't using it as much as the Boy Scouts. On average, it might be 1 or 2 times a year. Boy Scouts are usually 3 to 6 times a year right now. But all of that can be expanded, and that's just from Farrell. Dave.
First comment, especially about the Scouts, I love kind of hearing the integration of like what their needs were at the beginning to, you know, see this. Kind of looking at the future, with the groups that are using it right now, are there any amenities or items that they would really look to have or would appreciate in advance?
I think what we need to do is get some responses from the users or potential users, like they did the survey at the beginning of opening up the camp, to get that. Comments that are coming out in at the booking agent, the groups that are using it right now aren't saying much about that. We did just last week completed the remodeling of the 2 bathrooms and putting in a new kitchen ceiling. But there potentially could be many things that could benefit the usage of it. It could meet the needs of what people want out there. And right now we don't know what that is. You know?
Couple of questions. When was the last time there was an appraisal of the property? I'd just be so curious for us to know the value of that asset that we have. I think it was not that long ago.
When about 2004, 2006, I think, somewhere in that range is when we had an appraisal. And I was actually looking for it. I couldn't find it in the records here. I don't know if someone else had it.
Because conversation about wondering what the value was and if we could do something different. I just commend all of the people that continue to keep it going. And I also just want to make a comment about, or ask the question, like, for personal use, if a family wanted to use it for an event, it's the same process to go through Trista at the booking agent, right?
Yes.
And do you know what the current cost is?
Yes, it's $150 to rent the camp per day for groups up to 50 people. And it's $250 if you're over 50.
Yeah, great value, thanks. And one last quick thing. Dan Hedge, who most of us remember with great fondness, had an idea to make signs along one of the rustic paths that remind people of the four-way test. That would be a great way to integrate that into the experience that people have out there.
Yes, and in fact, I think just someone put one up in the shelter just recently. Yes, Rob.
Asking about family use, we had our daughter's wedding reception at the camp, and it was delightful out there.
Yeah.
And also, you mentioned George Freeborn initially about the camp committee. George was a Rotarian. He was the one that started Faribault Manufacturing years ago, then sold it, moved to Texas, and put up a big plant down there, and was given some accolades by the governor. But George Freeborn was the one who was on that committee.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't find
And maybe it would be a good idea too, to reach out to the Minnesota Academies, for that one, because they could probably use, that would be kind of something cool for them to be able.
Yes, actually, when I went through the minutes at, I don't know, probably in the 80s or 70s, I noticed that usage they had listed. So both of those schools showed up once or twice. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think that's.
One last comment, and we're gonna wrap up.
Just one other thing, David, there have been some conversations about having a couples night out there. And when I mentioned that to Ellie and Ryan at breakfast, Ellie liked it, but she thinks that would be an awesome idea. And Ryan is a musician, and so we've got a hostess and a musician for a party already, so.
That sounds great. I think we need to do that for this.
Okay, well, round of applause for Dave. All right, another wonderful meeting is in the books. Go out there, be kind, and we'll see you next week.